Welcome to Paint Cool Stuff. This is Hardy Fowler from Digital Painting Studio, and today we're going to finish off our spaceship crash project by rendering in the ship and tying everything into the background with some polish and accents. So complex machine renderings like this can be kind of daunting, so we'll just take this one step at a time. To start with, I'm going to use some Photoshop selection tools to make some solid shapes that I'll use as selections later. When rendering machines, it's important that everything seems geometrically correct. So circles need to be perfectly round, straight lines can't really have any wobble to them, things like that. So we'll take advantage of all of the selection tools that Photoshop offers and make some really solid and geometrically correct shapes. It will really pay off later when we're in the more painterly steps. And remember, we can create selections from any layer by command clicking on the layer, and the marching ants will appear. Just like in our environment rendering, we're using these solid shapes as selections, and then we're painting in softly with a brush set on low flow and opacity. This gives us lots of control over how the tone is applied. Okay, so I'm totally going to cheat here, but it's really okay. I'm not really liking the shapes that I've got going on for the cockpit area, and I need a little boost to get this rendering going. So I'm going to borrow a piece from some of my robot concept art that I have in my portfolio, and I'll transform this to see if it fits. And it's really working well. The shape and the feel are exactly what I'm going for. This can be a really great way to jumpstart an image, but do this with care. First of all, make sure that it's your own artwork or an image that you have permission to use. But we're going to paint over and manipulate this so much that I'm not too worried about it. Using a small area of finished art like this gives us lots of advantages. It sets the tone for our style, so I now know what I want the rest of the ship rendering to look like. We've got a color scheme, design language, and feel all established. It can also serve as a nice pivot point. You can copy bits and pieces and repeat them elsewhere in the image. It can help you really cover some ground quickly, but mostly this shortcut just gets the ball rolling and the image can really start to flow. I want this cockpit to be a focal point, so I'm doing a bit of extra rendering here to make that glass really gleam and catch some of this sunlight. It should be the highest value we have on the entire ship, and it happens to be right in the center of our composition spiral, which is a nice bonus. Another cool way to create an interesting selection shape is to create an array of shapes with radial symmetry. I'll show you what I mean. We do this by creating a single shape, simple but with just a few interesting details, and we just copy and flip it 180 degrees. We then just merge, copy, and rotate over and over again until these shapes start to fill an entire circle. This is going to add some really cool detail to the engine turbines. Now we'll start adding in some line work. This is where things start really feeling solid and polished in a machine rendering. Basically, these lines are the little seams where metal panels fit together. They do some really nice things for us. They make our machine seem more plausible and mechanically realistic and believable, and they also give us some cool design opportunities. We can really make these whatever we want, so if you have an area that's looking boring, or if you need a line to lead the viewer's eye to a focal point, use these seam lines to your advantage. Another great way to quickly add lots of interest in detail is to add rivets. I love these. All we need to do is carefully render one nice rivet, which is just basically a dark circle with a lighter circle inside, and then I'll just use the clone stamp tool and place more rivets anywhere I want with a few clicks. It's really easy to get carried away here, so be sure to use this with some restraint. Here I'm just adding a little extra rendering and line work to give these turbines some more form and detail. I want it to look like they kind of curve inward, so I'm adjusting the lighting to really emphasize this, and this circular line work really gives us a nice cut edge. As a focal point, I really want these turbines to shine, so a little bit of extra attention here. Okay, now that our beautiful ship is all rendered, it's time to start smashing and wrecking everything so that it tells our story. So I'll start adding some holes to the hull and some lighter marks to make it look kind of like chipped paint, sort of a distressing process. I want to add just enough of this to make it look old and beat up, but I definitely don't want to cover up too much of this cool ship rendering since it'll be the main attention getter in our image. Now we'll add some accent color to our ship and tie this in with the distressing we've been doing. I'll select the entire silhouette of the ship and fill in a color. I'm going with an orangish yellow to start. Set this new layer to multiply, and then we'll mask out and reveal some little accent areas. This is just like painting a model car or something. We're just looking for cool stripes and decals that we can add to make things look cooler and more interesting. Once we've got a basic idea in place, we can use our layer mask to scratch in little chipped paint areas. This looks really nice near edges where panels come together or anywhere that the ship has taken a hit. This adds a lot of realism and really helps get the idea of an old derelict ship across. Very cool stuff. Next, we'll paste in some cool decals and just transform them into place anywhere that they look cool. This sheet of decals is available to students as a downloadable resource. To make things more atmospheric, I'm going to start adding some layers to darken and brighten certain areas of the ship. I'll use a multiply layer here to darken everything, and then selectively mask out the areas that I want to remain in the middle ground. To counter this, I'll also add in a color dodge layer for areas that I really want to shine as they catch some rays of light. This whole effect gives us the sense that the ship is emerging from the shadows. Really helps to drive home the theme of discovery and exploration that I'm trying to communicate with this story. And it just adds some nice color and value variation. Okay, we are closing in on a finished product, but we have a few important details to add to sort of tie things together. Let's add some vines and shrubby vegetation growing over this ship. It'll really make it seem like it's been here for decades and it's starting to be reclaimed by the environment. We'll use contrast here as much as we can. We add dark leafy silhouettes wherever there's a light background. And on the flip side, we add some nice bright green marks wherever there's a dark background. That way our overgrowth is really popping and visible everywhere that we apply it. As a final detail, I'll be adding in some birds. I'll use these as a final eye-leading tool by making them follow the exact golden ratio spiral that I've used to design my composition. Concept artists love adding birds to just about anything. They do so many great things for an image. They add movement and can help define scale. They can give you an accent color if things are too monochromatic. And in this case, they even help out our story by showing that this ship has been here for so long that these creatures have sort of moved in. I hope you've really enjoyed this one. We did some pretty heavy lifting here, both in the environment and machine rendering, and I hope you can take away some really useful techniques. Let's take a look at our finished product. For more on these topics and loads of comprehensive digital painting tutorials and resources, be sure to check us out at digitalpaintingstudio.com. Until next time, good luck with your artwork and paint cool stuff.